during this tournament. That would be really, really hype. Yep, Galaxy has won both rounds so far. Yep, that's true. She's making a strong case to take this whole thing. So she'll be one to watch as this tournament continues to progress. We'll definitely be seeing more of her in the later rounds too, on stream. And we've started our third round here. We have Kaijuu, a French runner, in the top left, Bree hailing from Ireland in the top right, AmericanWalrus, presumably from America, in the bottom left, and then we have Jaw/Jay from question mark in the bottom right. Great. So these runners, some of them are newer. Some of them tend to come out for major events like relays and things like that. So these folks do have some experience with the game. Have maybe been playing a little bit less than some of the top seeds, but still very strong players in their own right, especially to make it this far in the tournament. So they'll be fun to watch. And we'll see how things go here. We're kind of moving through the first chapter again with no major difficulties at the moment. We call this category any percent. It's really any percent, no major glitches, because there is a glitch version of any percent where you can beat the game in like somewhere between 2 and 5 minutes, with memory corruption and fun stuff like that. But this is the pure any percent. Oh, Jay's from Norway. Hey, I learned something. Great. So, moving through Little Slugga here. These runners have done it before. When you're just starting this game out, it can be a massive headache to figure out how this boss works, but once you've been speedrunning it for like more than a day, it just becomes quite straightforward. And I believe we have a couple of bios here. AmericanWalrus says that he's been playing Super Meat Boy on and off for 6 years, but only did ILs for the first 3. Got into full game runs after The End Is Nigh came out and ran that for a bit. And he goes on to say, if I lose this tournament, I demand a rematch where we all play Ogma, which is one of the other characters you can play as in this game. Very fun to control that character. Yeah, so that's a little bit about AmericanWalrus. Fun facts. And it looks like things are still pretty tight between all 4 racers so far, that we're seeing on screen. Kaijuu a little bit ahead of the others. Kaijuu, I believe, has the strongest PB out of these runners here. We have Kaijuu has an 1839. We have Bree on leaderboards with a 2039. We have AmericanWalrus with a PB of 1917. And then we have Jaw from Norway with 2013. These runners all in the 18 to 20 minute range for the most part. So this could be a very close one towards the end here. And we're moving along here. We have again Kaijuu pulling out a little bit of a lead over the others. Jaw taking a bit of a death there on 213, which is going to give AmericanWalrus a slight advantage moving into these later levels of Hospital. And yeah, this will be interesting. We might see one or two of these runners go home, depending on kind of how things shake out. So it's going to really be an intense watch, I think, as we kind of approach the final chapters of this one. I'm just going to call him Jay. Yeah. It's easier that way. Alright, Kaijuu. First out of Chad here. Jay unfortunately dying on Chad. Let's see how the others do. American Walrus going for Chad skip now. Ooh, does not quite get the optimal cycle, and same with Bree. You can keep the blood rising if you get that key early enough, but unfortunately for some of these runners, they just do not quite make it. Jay does get Chad skip on the second try, so props, significant props. Kaijuu definitely pulling ahead at the moment as he is the first, kind of approaching the one of the trickier segments of Factory. Very low-key, tricky segments with all these conveyors. Especially with that gap skip we were talking about earlier. It'll be interesting to see if Kaijuu goes for gap skip. Let's see how he does. Kaijuu will go for it. Oh, but does not quite get the jump timing right with the pause buffer. So going for the backup there and getting it, no problem. And things are tightening up a little bit in the race for second out of this group of four. We have American Walrus. Then we have Jay close behind, and then we have Bree just bringing up the rear a little bit. But just a couple seconds behind Jay. Let's see, Jay's going for safer strat there for gap skip. Same with Bree, going for the third conveyor as opposed to going right over to the fourth. Kaiju's cruising right now. Kaijuu is just like an unstoppable force in this group of four here. Let's see if Kaijuu goes for mono and gets it. That was a little bit of a struggle for some of the runners we saw in the last heat. Let's see how Kaijuu does. Gets the auto jump off of the block on the left, but does not, unfortunately, execute the end of that strat and has to do it over again. Uh-oh. Can Kaijuu get it second try? No, Kaiju's just going for the safe strat. Riding the platform to the finish. Smart move. Alright, and that's not enough to put Kaijuu back in the thick of things with the other three runners. But a couple more slip-ups like that could even things up just a little bit more and create an opening for one of these other runners here. Jay going for mono. Fortunately, takes a death. Bree gets it. So Bree's actually going to pull ahead of Jay as we're getting to the end of Factory. American Walrus going for the safer strat on 318. Bree going for the strat up top and actually saves 6 seconds over American Walrus there by going for the faster 318 strat. Jay also going for it and gets it. Okay. Things just kind of changed a little bit there. So Bree's actually definitely a contender here for second place out of this group of four at the moment. Just a couple seconds behind American Walrus as they're both wrapping up Salt Factory. Let's see if any of these runners go for the Hex skip. Something we've been following some of the other runners going for. It is a very risky strat. I think Kaijuu played it safe there and didn't go for it. Typically, you don't go for Hex until you're in the low to mid 18 range. So I think we can expect a lot of these runners to just go for the safe strat and eat the 3 seconds. But you never know. American Walrus will play it safe on Hex. Bree as well. Very tight between those two at the moment. And Jay's also going for a safe strat on Hex. Very respectable move. I think I would do the same in this situation. A very risky strat. And here we go, we're moving through the middle levels of hell right now. American Walrus making 4-8 look easy. That's a really tough level with all those fireballs bouncing around all over the place. Very tricky cycle-based level. and the fireballs have very strange and unfortunate hitboxes, so it's can be kind of a rough situation sometimes. Ooh, Bree, unfortunately, taking a death on 410. This level's really tricky because you have the fireball advancing through that very tight hallway. Let's see how Bree does on the second attempt. Gonna play it safe here. Yep, and gets it. That's a tough one. In casual play, that one can take you a very long time to beat. Our runners know what to do. It's just a matter of timing it right. And here we go. We have Kaijuu starting to wrap up hell. Clear lead over the other runners still. Great performance so far. Rapture could be the great equalizer, as it tends to be, though. We'll see what happens in the next chapter here for Kaijuu. And looks like we have Bree on 415, Jay on Bree on 414, Jay on 415, and AmericanWalrus on 416. So just a couple of levels separating them. Still anybody's game here as we're starting to wrap up hell. Let's see. Bree is going for kind of some smooth movement through these levels, nothing too fancy. Ooh, unfortunately gets hit by one of the chompers there on 416. Those chompers do have your number, and they track you until they can get you, or until they hit a wall, and then they kind of just disappear. But very tricky obstacles to reckon with. And Kaijuu, Walrus, and Jay, all in Little Horn. Kaijuu will be the first out. Bree's just entering Little Horn now. So it looks close when you're on Little Horn, because it's a very straightforward boss where you just have Little Horn screaming at you for a minute. But yeah, this boss takes about, I think, 55 seconds to beat, so it's a pretty lengthy boss. And it's a lot of just standing around waiting for it to end for the most part. Okay, let's see how Kaiju's doing for a second here. Just took a death on 5-3. This is a tricky one with the moving saws and the repulsors. You have to do some very light jumps so that you don't go flying into the saws here up top. And Kaijuu gets it third try. Tricky level. Yeah, these repulsors are really hard to work with. They can just smack Meat Boy down if you come at it at the wrong angle. So it's very important that you approach the repulsors at just the right angle. It takes a lot of figuring out how they work. Let's see, we have everybody's on Rapture now. And it looks like this is a little bit closer now that Kaijuu took a couple of really long deaths on 5-3. Walrus just a level behind now over Kaijuu, so the race is tightening up just a little bit. Kaiju's going to need to kind of do a quick reset here for himself and just really try to go deathless for these last few levels to maintain this lead. I think another 1 or 2 deaths could really set Walrus up with an opening to take the lead here. And just as a quick reminder too, this is a knockout tournament, so we do have other racers off screen right now who are participating, including some higher seeds who might be finishing earlier than what we see here. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. We have, I think we're at 12 participants remaining, and after this round of our knockout tournament, we'll have 10. So we'll be saying goodbye to 2 runners this race, with the 2 lowest times. So the stakes are pretty high, especially for some of these runners who are lower seeds. Kaijuu, I think, is like 6th seed, and I think Bree and Jay are a little bit lower. I think Walrus is somewhere in the middle of the pack. So these folks, it's a little bit higher stakes at this stage. They really have to make sure that they put on their A game to stay in the running. And here we go. We do have things continuing to tight in between Walrus and Kaijuu. They're actually on the same level, 513. This is a really tricky one with disappearing and reappearing platforms. It can really just be a complete run killer, so it's very important that these runners play it safe and wait for a safer cycle if they feel like they're going to miss the faster cycle. And they zoom through it no problem. It looks like it's still kind of a bit of a toss-up between Bree and Jay right now. Jay has a couple of levels of an advantage over Bree as Jay approaches 514. Bree's going into 512. So it's still definitely within Bree's grasp to catch up to Jay here. And Kaijuu holding onto the lead by maybe about 10 to 15 seconds over American Walrus, as Kaijuu is the first one to go into Larry. Let's see if Kaijuu gets a good Larry here to potentially widen the lead and seal the deal here. This is really American Walrus's last chance to catch up to Kaijuu and overtake him. Ooh, but Kaijuu gets a great Larry? I believe that was a 3-cycle, I think. So the luck played out in Kaiju's favor. This is quite possibly Kaiju's race to win over American Walrus. We'll see what happens though. Bree and Jay tied up on 517. This actually got very close very quickly for the two runners. And American Walrus is striking out with the Larry luck, unfortunately. Uh-oh. This is bad news. Could the other runners potentially overtake American Walrus? Larry can go on for a very long time. So, oh, here we go. American Walrus is able to get out of there in time before the other runners enter Larry, just barely. And we have a very, very tight race between Bree and Jay. Let's see how this plays out. It's really going to just come down to when the worms jump. When are those worms going to jump? I believe we have 2 that have jumped for Jay, and I think 2 that have jumped... Oh, yeah, so Jay's going to be the first one out with all 3 worms jumping, and Bree's, unfortunately, just a little bit stuck waiting for that last Larry head to jump into the saws. And this will be interesting, though. I don't think it's over for Bree yet. It might not be over for Bree, but Larry has to jump pretty soon. And it doesn't seem like Larry's cooperating with her, so this could be an issue. Why do the Larrys jump? I don't know. Because they're angry. Alright, let's see what happens here. I think Bree could still potentially make this happen with a really strong finish. Kaijuu definitely widened the lead here in these last few levels over Walrus, as Walrus is moving through 6-3, starting 6-4, and Kaijuu here is already on the final boss, actually. It is, yes, it is indeed far from over. And, ooh, look at that! Just while we were chatting a second ago, it looks like Bree is taking the lead over Jay. This will be interesting to see how this evolves. Bree getting stuck with a very bad Larry, but showing no problems here as she moves through the first couple of levels of the end. Jay, ooh, oh, almost dies on 6-1. Yikes, very slidey, but does make it after struggling quite a bit on that one. Ooh, that was scary stuff. All right, Jay's got to really, really just make these last few levels happen. This is a really make or break moment for Jay. The tournament, continued participation in the tournament is on the line here. The stakes are pretty high. Bree is doing quite well. Kaiju's the first to finish out of this group of 4. Walrus on Fetus. Let's see how it goes. We have some of our other racers off screen finishing up. Vorpal finishing with a very respectable 18-12. And here we go. I'm just focused on this this action right now. We'll talk about standings after. All right. Ooh, Kaijuu with 8 deaths plus the escape death. So when you go off screen at the end of escape, it actually counts as a death. So I think Kaijuu putting on a very good show there with 8 unintentional deaths and 1 intentional death. All right, Bree is the first one out of Omega. American Walrus wrapping up the escape sequence. This will still be close. I think if Bree takes a death on Fetus, Jay could have an opening. Oh no, Jay's having a really hard time at end, unfortunately. 6-1 was not forgiving, and it looks like Omega is not being forgiving to Jay either. Having a bit of a hard time with keyless. This is a really tricky strat like we were talking about earlier. Requires a very precise jump off of the side of a platform that you're not even supposed to get a jump off of normally. So, really tricky strat. Definitely the bane of a lot of speedrunners' existences. This looks like Bree has a good chance of pulling out the win here over Jay, as Bree starts the escape. Right now, let's see how Bree does. American Walrus with looks like 10 unintentional deaths and 1 intentional death. And Bree finishes up over Jay. Good finish to Bree there. Really phenomenal gameplay for the last chapter there. Not too many mistakes, and really was able to turn it around after being behind going into the last chapter. So props to Bree for pulling that win out over Jay. And let's check out Jay as Jay's finishing up too. Good work to all the runners as we're finishing up. Alright, let's see. Right, waiting for Jay to finish up strong here. As the results are coming in, we'll update our leaderboards momentarily. GG's to all the runners. That was another exciting race to watch. There were lots of lead changes again. This has been really exciting. There really hasn't been a clear winner for a lot of these races so far that we've seen on stream. And we have 2 more rounds coming up too, so there's going to be more Meat Boy action ahead. We are whittling down from 16 at the start of today to 6. And after this round, we will just have 10 remaining, so 2 more rounds of elimination coming up just in a couple minutes here. As Jay finishes, GG's to Jay. We have times coming in for our runners for round 3. Let's do a quick run through here. We have we have Vorpal finally pulling out a win with an 18-14 over Matty with an 18-35. Fims pulling out an 1849. Galaxy finishing with a strong 4th. Not continuing her streak with the first place finishes, but still extremely respectable finish with a 19 flat. Kaijuu gets a 1918, which we saw on stream. Shredberg with a 1935. Chris S97 1950. Jankmo with a 2032. American Walrus with a 2038. Uber staying in the race with a 21-22, and after this round we are unfortunately saying goodbye to Bree with a 21-49 and Jay with a 23-29 finish. Great work to those runners. Wonderful performances from both Bree and Jay. Jay being making it a little bit farther, I think, than was expected, which is really awesome to see. So congrats to Jay for making it into the 3rd round. Good work to the runners. All right, we are going to update standings. We'll be back into the action in just a couple minutes, folks, so hang tight. Right, so while we're getting all that stuff squared away, yeah, GG's to Jay. That was a really fun one to watch, because Jay actually was holding on to that lead over Bree for a good chunk of that race, but Bree just really brought it home at the end. That was really exciting to watch. Lots of fun races on stream so far. We've got a couple more coming up at you in just a couple minutes. Right, we're down to 10 runners. And it looks like most of them are readied up in racetime.gg for the next round. We will be getting started just momentarily. The field is narrowing from 16 to 10, just in the matter of like an hour and a half. This format moves really fast. You get through a lot of rounds really quickly. This is where it starts to get spicy. Yep. This is where it starts to get spicy. I agree. Alright, we're deciding which 4 runners to showcase for this next matchup. We'll continue to show some of the lower seeds as in these earlier rounds. All right, cool.
7 times.
What was that?
All set on time.
All set on times. Cool. Yeah, the leaderboards are updated.
Super Meat Boy.
So if you type in exclamation point, continue to show some of the lower seeds as... Whoa, I can hear myself. Oh. That happens earlier rounds. Type in exclamation point SMBKO, you can see all the results after each round. And we're setting up our next 4. We're going to see Uber, who we have not seen on stream yet, and the return of Chris S97, American Walrus, and Jankmo are the 4 we will be tuning into this time around. Very excited for this next matchup. One change for hello. One change for round 3 results just sent your way. Earlham and we are going to get started in just a second.
No, that one's very off.
Right, the runners are readying up for round 4. We're going to start with 10 and finish this round with 8 finalists.
I had to really butcher that.
That's okay, no worries. We're learning as we go. Alright, so we have Jankmo, who we saw earlier, one of the higher seeds here. These are all kind of middle of the pack seeds, so this could be anyone's race here. I'll call out PBs too, just so you have a sense of where the runners are at as we start to jump into this next round. For PBs, we have Uber with a 1940, Jankmo again with an 1812, American Walrus with a 1917, and we have